as well. So welcome to everyone that has just joined. There is a poll. Both participants and attendees can write into it, can answer it as well, and it'll stay up there, and we'll give it a few minutes for everyone to join as well. We'll just wait until 3 minutes past as well, and then we'll kick it off. Perfect. So let's kick off just to be conscious of time. Thank you so much for everyone that's joined, and good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. This is the first Soda Social Pride special webinar, and we'll be taking a look at how technology has played a role in amplifying the voices of the LGBTQIA plus community. You can expect an hour of panel discussion chaired by myself, and there'll be a live Q&A throughout, and then we may have some time for networking at those who wish to continue the conversation further. Soda Social is trust in Soda's unique networking revolution built to empower and bring together a diverse community that represents the digital world that we live in. We strive to innovate, educate, and inspire future leaders of technology. And my name is Antonia Otter, and I'm a senior consultant here at Trust in Soda, and I'm an education and insight lead at Nova Group's diversity innovation team. I'm an LGBTQIA plus ally, and I'm passionate to help drive change for equality in tech, addressing diversity, disparity, and empowering our people to ensure everyone's voices are heard. I'm honoured to be moderating today's discussion, ensuring everyone in our community feels supported and confident to be their authentic selves. I want to make sure that this is as engaging as possible. So if you do have any questions throughout this webinar, there is the chat box or the Q&A function on your screen. If you are watching on LinkedIn, come onto the Zoom because this is where we will find your questions here as well. Pride Month is a super exciting time and for us to be able to celebrate awesome people in our community as well. And allies are some of the most effective and powerful voices for the LGBTQIA plus community. Not only do allies help foster safety in the coming out process, but they also help others to understand the importance of equality, fairness, acceptance, and mutual respect as well. We've seen luminaries from the tech world speak out and show their support for the community, such as Swati Vavarin, the engineering lead of Instagram, and Kathy Besnett, the CTO officer at Bank of America. However, there are still many changes that the community have to face, particularly due to the repercussions of the pandemic. Prejudice and discrimination continue to exist across the globe, which emphasizes the need to have allies within the community. And namely, look at how technology impacts virtual and physical life, especially during these difficult times. So with that in mind, our aim for today is to listen and learn whilst our panel speak about how technology has impacted their own lives as well. That is enough from me, I believe. But lastly, before we start, please note this is being recorded. It will be uploaded to our Soda Social YouTube channel. We can have access to our previous webinars now. And with that out of the way, I would love to introduce our fabulous panel who are currently all over the world. So we'd love to know where our audience are today. So please let us know where you are located in the chat box. And yeah, folks, let's start with our panel. Emre, let's go over to you.
Thank you, Antonia. Hi, everyone. My name is Emre. I work at Google as an employee relations partner here in Munich. And yes, I'm very happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you. Jana?
Hi, I'm Jana. I'm a video game writer. I work at mobile studio Buga in Berlin. And are we supposed to say our favorite thing about Pride?
Oh, yes, please. And we'll go back to you, Emre, after. Sorry.
My favorite things about Pride Month are the opportunity to get visibility on other members of this community and the sense of solidarity that the month celebrations bring, and the costumes, not so much for me, but for other people.
Love that. Emre, shall we quickly go back to you and your favorite thing about Pride?
I would say that my favorite thing about Pride is the ability to be totally out. So some people are only out to their friends, others are only out to their partners or siblings, and some they aren't out to anyone. And I think Pride creates somehow an environment that for a lot of people enables them to be their complete authentic self and to be totally out to everyone.
Love that. Thank you. Dean, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Dean Corbett. I'm the Chief People Officer of Avado. We are a digital-enabled learning business dealing with corporate training, specifically in the space of digital and data. As for what I like about Pride, there's so much to like. Like Jana, for everyone else, I love the costumes. Definitely not for me. But more seriously, I actually really value the opportunity that it gives more than just the gay community or the LGBTQ community to reflect on the history of how we've got to where we've got to and what's happened, and some of the ills, but also some of the amazing movements that have brought us to where we are today, where rights are improving. So it's that chance to really look back and say that this is what's happened, good and bad, and let's celebrate all of that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for coming today. Leon, yourself next, please.
Yeah, hi. Who am I? And if yes, how many? So for today, I'm Leon. The rest is drag. So I'm situated in Berlin, Germany, and also that's the cultural frame I'm speaking out of. So please keep that in mind when you get the answers and maybe think that they are not fitting to where you are situated. What I like about Pride, so this year is really special because after a long period of not seeing other activists in person, so this year of Pride was very important for me to meet other activists in person on Pride and also like dance with them. That was really, really special. And on other years, I do other stuff also, like being an organizer or protecting the demo and stuff like that. So, but this year, like contact was the most important thing for me.
After a year, I can imagine that. I'm super jealous. I love that. And then Santiago, last but definitely not least.
Thank you, Antonia. My name is Santiago Canepa. I am originally from Argentina, but I live in Seattle, Washington in the US. And I am a senior software engineer in Microsoft. And I would say that I can definitely agree with what Dean, Jana, and Leon said about Pride. But one of the things I do like is not only people dress up, but the cities dress up, the companies dress up, and everything looks so pretty. Everything makes everyone happy, and of course, life continues. But that sense of community is super visible through those visible signs, and I really like that. To go out and see people having fun and enjoying life as their true selves.
Yeah.
The companies dress up until exactly 12:01 a.m. on July 1st.
And we get rid of the rainbows.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly not what we want Pride to just be about. We'll definitely come back onto that later. Thank you so much, folks, for being here today. So we've got a number of discussion points that we have gone through already, and I'm super excited to hear your input. So let's just kick it off. So there was an interesting study that was conducted by the Institute of Engineering and Technology in 2018. And it actually found out that 30% of young people in the LGBTQIA plus community aren't considering a career in tech due to concerns around discriminations. And I know that's something that we discussed is representation, diversity is super important, but what do we think that tech organizations can actually do to support the community and ensure that people, the community can be their authentic selves? I'll open it up to the panel now and take it away.
So I can start. So for example, what we did here at Google, if you type in the browser pride.google, you will find all the support we have done this year. So this past year, the need for belonging has become more important than ever from my perspective. Pandemic has separated us from our loved ones, from communities, and caused definitely significant loss for many. And I think it's really important and clear that we need somehow an inclusive and equitable recovery for everyone, which is why Google donated $4 million to support several LGBTQ organizations. Additionally, we've done a donation of ad grants worth of $1 million for the Transgender Law Center and Transgender Legal Defense and Education Funds. And these grants will help especially the trans community to share critical community resources and continue the fight for trans rights. And for example, what we also did is when you look at, like I said, at pride.google, you will also find that we did a lot to foster belonging to our products. So for example, we continue our work to make our products more inclusive and useful. For example, very interestingly, in Google Photos, we have heard from the trans community that resurfacing certain memories can be painful. So for example, when we sometimes show pictures of your old self and make a recommendation. So we worked with different partners and listened to the feedback. And as a result, we launched more granular controls, which makes reminding on old memories more inclusive. And I think this is for me a really great example how we can just make the world a bit more colorful and also inclusive for especially our trans community. And for example, in Google Maps and search, you can also now see local businesses that says gender neutral restrooms, adding like additional features where businesses really can identify themselves as LGBT friendly or transgender safe space. And we really believe that this information is critical to helping the community to find a safe and welcoming place. So there are much more things that Google did in the past. So happy to read if you would like to do it. So on pride.google. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. And yeah, the piece you say about memories is super important. I know that Facebook had a big piece on memories as well when they had their memory function come out. So it's good to hear that Google are following their footsteps, and equally Google is so visible on the search engine as well, being an ally as a tech company to the community. Love that. Thank you so much. Leon or Santiago, I know you two had.
It's okay if I answer first,
Yeah.
Santiago? Or I have a short question back on Emre. Maybe you can answer that later. So for me also, like, the intersections of different kind of categories are really important to think about. Like, when you support LGBTQI plus community, like, do you also, like, because most of the time, like, white cis gay guys get most of the money, they get most of the publicity and stuff. So are you also like differentiation, or do you differentiate like, where does the money go and how does the money, like, who needs the money the most and stuff like that? Yeah, so I would add to what you said, like, it's always important to also watch the intersections of the, yeah, let's say, categories from the LGBTIQ plus community. And to answer the question, I think I understood the questions a bit different, because I thought maybe it's also about how to get more LGBTIQ plus into the tech community. So I thought maybe I answer that quickly if it's okay, or maybe when it leads to a different direction, it's also okay, then I don't answer it.
No, you can answer it, no worries.
So I would say that I was, like, when I was young, I look like young, I know, but I'm not that young. So I think I was one of the 30%, or maybe in that time it was also more. So so in general, I think the environment of doing work, it's still here in Germany, I don't know how it is in other countries, but it's still like homophobic, transphobic, and whatnot. So when I have interviews, like Antonia guides me now a bit through interviews, so I get a lot of shit questions, because my my CIF is, I think it's kind of visible that I'm trans. So I think we have to train us and all other people, like, in what does a CIF looks like from trans people, and also, like, how can we get them more into the tech community? And this is like, I had like I have 6 points to highlight them. Like, first, you need to think where to find LGBT youth you want to have in the tech community. And I would say, like, Google should go there and make themselves visible. Like, and ask yourself after that, maybe, why is your surrounding not that LGBTIQ plus visible? And yeah, think about, like, why are not so many people out and proud? I don't know, in other companies, I know that people are still hiding a lot. They don't tell their life stories, they don't share their partners, they don't share anything about themselves. So I think the tech community is somehow like other working spaces, like, there's still a lot to do. The third thing is change your surrounding then to make it more comfortable for LGBTIQ plus. And the fourth thing is, like, support, and that's what you already said, Emre. I'm really happy to hear that. Like, support already existing NGOs who are supporting LGBTIQ plus youth. And the fifth thing is, here in Germany, we have like a small NGO, but I think it's growing. It's called Ready to Code. I don't know if you know them, but they are going to school and working and offering workshops for girls. And now they are opening up for LGBTIQ plus youth. So it's really great. Like, they do really basic work. And I would say support them. Some kind of seeds, small seeds are out there. I think you need to give them water and sun, and of course money, but also yeah, some visibility. And also what you did, Emre, is really important. This is also one of my point is make your support visible so that people know that you're supporting LGBTIQ+. This, yeah, it's, of course, this is only like a short list of tasks you can do, but I would say we have the same thing in mind, and Google also does a lot of things, but there are some things more to do, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Leon. And then finally, Santiago.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I hear there of course difference of culture. Probably there are differences, geographic difference and stuff. In my experience, I have never. I have found that tech companies seem to be more welcoming, more focused, right? More focused on the people and the skills than. You know, than their diverse backgrounds. What I want to say is, particularly I work with several, you know, throughout my career, I work in many companies, both in Argentina and in the US. And that has never been my personal experience. I feel myself really lucky, of course, for that. But I've always been able to do, to be myself and show my life and share my life with my coworkers and stuff. One of the things that we talked in other panels about corporate culture and the transformation that needs to happen for corporations to show that really what matters is the people's skill and the diverse points of views that the people bring into the company to make it more rounded, right? We can get a lot of technical people, but if they're not diverse in thought, we're lacking a lot of that. And I think that the companies, or I've seen the companies that I work for try to do that, right? There's a long way in front of us, but it would be interesting to understand that 30% is about people who have tried the industry and were actually discriminated, or were they people that hesitated because of that, you know, idea that corporate culture might be, you know, rejecting of those diverse points of view.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I guess the important thing for tech businesses to show that they are inclusive as well, and they do have these bits in mind. So thank you so much. Awesome. So moving on to the next point, actually around dating apps and the community. So according to Tech Nation, a 2019 study showed that 80% of the community said that dating apps had a positive impact on themselves as well. I'm keen to hear from you all really how important or what your own experiences have been with dating apps or other online groups like Meetup or Slack, which can truly represent the community.
I'm happy to chime in very quickly because mine is short and sweet. I met my current partner on Grindr. So for me, it's been a very positive experience. I met my previous partner on Grindr as well. So it is something that I have bought into. I know most of my gay friends have met their partners through some form of app or dating site. I know lots of heterosexuals who've also met their partners who they're married and had children with online. So I think it's only been a good thing from that perspective. I also know there are some downsides, but you asked personal, that's my personal view.
I love that.
So I can talk a little bit about my experience also as this I'm a Gen X, probably the oldest in this panel. So as I was growing up, as I was a teenager, these type of applications didn't exist. I basically lived the growth of the internet, right? So how did you meet people? You had to go out, and you have to be lucky enough for the other person to be at the same place at the same time as you were. So as you can imagine, having the opportunity to not have to do that, right? Because again, you cannot, back then you couldn't be yourself, your true self in school, in college, you had that little group, right? So technology to me helped break those little groups, right? Connect people. And I think that the positive effect that it had, it was incredible. It was a new way to reach people that you would have never crossed paths in your life. And to, of course, see that you're not alone, that there's a lot of people like you, and you seen reflected in others, even though they're 6,000 miles away, or 8,000 kilometers, whatever. Or they're very close to you and you didn't even know they lived around the corner, right? Somebody just like you. That was super important. And that, I think, empowered us as individuals to say, hey, if they can come out, if they can have a normal life, being their true selves, why can't I? So technology for me was super positively impactful.
Thank you so much for sharing. Jana, did you want to say something?
I did want to say something. Thank you. So I came out in 2003, and that meant I had several years of socializing and dating available to me before social media became as prominent as it is now, and before dating apps became as prominent as they are now. And I remember it, as Santiago says, where you had to just show up and hope someone you liked would be there too. And I think that just like every technological development, it's had some positive aspects and some negative aspects. The positive aspects being that the apps offer a certain amount of safety and community because their participants are self-selecting. One of the negative elements I can think of is that I think technology has a tendency to be quite binary, and so it doesn't always necessarily represent the diversity of the queer community well. I also think that it's easy to filter out people who don't fit into a specific parameter. Like you can search matches by age very easily. So maybe you're not meeting people who are a lot older or a lot younger than you. And I think one of the things I found really valuable about in-person spaces was that intergenerational exchange, which I don't see happening as much now. At the same time, as Santiago also said, the visibility of the LGBT community has increased enormously with the evolution of technology. And I think it's in large part responsible for the gains that this community has made, and of which, if you think about it, this kind of dating app would have been impossible even 20, 25 years ago. So I think overall they've been a positive thing. I would like to see them continue evolving to serve the community even better.
Thank you so much for that as well. Does anyone else want to share?
Yeah, I can add something, like, because for me this question was really hard, because being trans is not a sexual orientation. So I have some problems with dating apps, because before that panel, like, I started researching, like, is there an app, a dating app for trans people, which is not used by fetishizing people who only want to have sex with whatever. And I didn't found any. And I did some small steps on OkCupid or Gay Romeo here in Germany. I don't know if you know it, but I think there's not enough knowledge about trans people out there, so that, like, cis people, for example, they don't know what to do with trans people. Like in Gay Romeo, for example, then people start to ask me, oh, you want to be a woman? And I'm like, I don't want to start at the basic stuff, it's okay. And in the heteronormative dating apps, then I have the problem, like, I look pretty young, and people I adore, I like, I fancy, whatever, they ask me why I'm writing to them because I look so young. I mean, or maybe I didn't met like the right people who also fancy young looking people, but I think it's still kind of hard dating for trans people. Like, I mean, Gay Romeo made a big progress the last years for gay trans men. So this problem. So you have a category you can click on. That's nice. But also, like in the gay community, several sex clubs and stuff, they're open and they have like a friendly policy towards trans people. And if they have problem, they also can go to the owner of the club and stuff and say, hey, people are shit to me, or they throw shit at me, please throw them out. That's working. Yeah, I think the trans community did a good job on that, but there's still a lot to do. But beside of that, like technology, for example, helped me personally fucking a lot. For example, YouTube. I know it's a bit old school now, but when I was searching for information about like top surgery or other medical stuff, I was so happy to meet people online who shared their own story, and that was amazing. So for me, also till now, this is even more important to get in contact and get to know people. Also Instagram, than dating apps. I think that this could be a nice invention. For example, during my research, I was thinking, oh, it would be nice to have a dating app which is like even more progressive than the already existing ones. So yeah, maybe it's coming.
Thank you, Leon. Yeah, and I guess it links to what Jana said as well about technology being really binary, and we can probably link that back to people that are developing these technologies being quite binary as well, and all links together and why we need more diversity within tech. Cool, awesome. And we touched on this a little bit before, Jana. You mentioned, Pride is a great celebration. We see rainbows everywhere, but then it hits the 1st of July and we're at the end of Pride Month, and rainbow washing is what I think is really important for us to speak about. And if anyone doesn't know what rainbow washing means, it's where organisations indicate that they're supporting the LGBTQIA plus community, but at minimum effort as well. And tech brands have a crucial role to play here. So I'd love to know how you think that organisations can drive genuine change beyond publicity to be impactful and a genuine ally and to really celebrate Pride.
I can start. So I think it's sorry, what do they call it? Pink washing or rainbow washing? Rainbow washing, right. I will start to say that in my personal opinion, any publicity is good publicity. If I see the rainbow somewhere, it's a start. At least they do have it, right? Whether they do it genuinely with the efforts to really push that lifestyle or not, well, that's a little bit different. Like I said before, have been very lucky to be in companies that do offer that support, right? Even in it's in the little things. It's in the normalization of things that were before so weird or so out of this world, like two men or two women together, right? It's those little things that matter when companies really adopt these things in their culture. For instance, all the mandatory training that we do, they instead of being PowerPoint presentations, they do like little soap operas or telenovelas, right? And there's the characters that are recurring characters, and they have their positions in the company, and those are super doers. There's going to be the developer guy whose husband is waiting for dinner, and you have the girl or the trans person, and they're not to show you that they're LGBTQIA+. They're there to show you that they're developers, that they're managers, right? And that is what I feel that the company is doing well in supporting this. It's not about being gay. It's about knowing that the people who are doing what they do, maybe gay, maybe straight, maybe whatever, rainbow color they choose to be, they're just there and they're part of a diverse force that makes that company. So in that case, I really like what Microsoft is doing, because it's about the little things. It's about the everyday things. It's about knowing that, hey, bring your spouses to whatever. It's not your husbands or your wives. It's in those little things, which, by the way, that was a big thing for me. To me, in Spanish, it's very difficult to say your spouse without saying, your whether it's a male or a female. So when I came to the US, I always thought, I'm gonna say my husband. Right? That was a conscious thing that I had to say for myself, so that people understand. Just like when a guy comes and says my wife, or a woman says my husband, they're telling me implicitly they're heterosexual. So why can't I say that I'm homosexual, right? And I started doing this, and I realized it's in those little details that it matters, that it starts changing people's perception. Only yesterday did I see a commercial on TV about some medication, and it was the little kid with the two moms playing, but it's so subtle, right? So companies do that very, very subtly, and I think that is the most powerful, the most powerful thing, just to focus on the work, not on who's doing it, so long we show that diversity is really valuable.
Yeah, thank you so much. I agree that representation is so important as well. So thank you.
I agree as well. I think that there's something really nice about that subtle inclusion of the child and the two mums, right? I can't bear anything that's in my face, straight, gay, whatever. I just personally, I can't stand it, and I don't think that you drive change with that. The way you drive change is, as all the behavioral economics will tell us, it's through nudging, by making people feel exposed to it, but in a really safe way. And that's exactly what that type of ad is trying to achieve. And I really respect that that's being done. We had a similar, I'm not sure if anyone in the UK remembers this, but we had a similar ad. It was Lloyd's Bank. They had a gay couple secure a mortgage as part of their advert. And it was woven in. No one thought anything of it. It was normalized, and that felt really special.
And that's how it should be, though, isn't it? Because it is just normal life. And I think we don't need to be all singing and dancing, because it is normal life, and that's just what it should look like. So love that. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add to those points?
I didn't sign up for this question, but I think it's clear I have some opinions about it from what I said earlier. And I actually wanted to ask a question of my fellow panelists, and I'd like to answer it myself. But I'm wondering, when you see a rainbow logo on a corporate, or a rainbow overlay on a corporate logo, what does it actually mean? Like, what are the expectations that you associate with that?
Okay.
Quick fire response.
Yeah, okay.
Leon, please.
I would say, if I say rainbow flag somewhere, I would ask myself, what kind of company is it? Is it a bank, or is it like a cafe or a club? And if it's a bank, I would think, oh, they just want my money and my data. So I would think there's not much behind that flag. But that's my opinion. I would say maybe I'm a bit too radical, or more radical. I think, like, we are living in 2021, and only showing pride flags on Pride time is not getting me from behind the couch, let's say. It's a saying in Germany. Like, it's not, yeah, it's still special, but at the same time, it's not that special, I would say.
That's a great question, Jenna, because you asked specifically about companies, but I noticed specifically in Seattle. I moved 3 years ago to Seattle. I used to live in California, so much south than here. I noticed that in Seattle, it's not just businesses, it's everybody displays the rainbow flag. businesses, homes, organizations. It's everywhere. So I think it happens a little bit what Leon just was saying is when it's everywhere, it's nothing special, right? Particularly what I do like the way that has happened in the past years in Microsoft, because like I was saying at the beginning, what I like about Pride Month is like the whole campus dresses in that flag. It's not that they show it year round. There's an objective for that. There's a reminder, it's a celebration month, right? So again, I feel lucky, as you can tell, to work for a company that I think is pushing for values, for a deep change in culture, for diversity, and truly doing it. If other companies do it just like you say, Leon, to get your information, etc., at least I guess I'm half a glass half full type of guy. At least we see that rainbow flag, right? At least we remind people you're welcome here. You know, another bank, they will also take your email, but you won't be welcome, right? Here, at least they have that. So I just try to see the good in it. I like to see rainbow flags. I think they make me feel welcome. No more expectations than, hey, you're welcome here, you won't be discriminated. Now, if I saw a rainbow flag and I feel discriminated, that's another completely different story, right?
I think you touched on a really interesting point there, Santiago, the last one. If you see the rainbow flag and then you feel like you've been discriminated against, that's a whole other conversation. I think I get where Leon is coming from, but like Santiago, I would like to see the good in the effort. I work in a business that we have a very big production arm to our organization. We design learning products, and a lot of that is interactive and online. So I'm very familiar with the amount of effort that goes in just to change a logo. So the first thing I think is, at least they've gone to the efforts to make a change to their brand, right? And if you think, brand is still a relatively new idea, so it's still evolving as a concept in the business world, and what it means and how it plays out. For people to be bold enough to then go and change that for 1 month, and they might do it for other courses as well, but let's stick with the month of June. For them to do it, they've put the effort in, they've possibly invested some resource, time, energy into that. I think that's a good thing. And to Santiago's point, that does add to your sense of being accommodated and feeling of welcome. I then would automatically, though, because of what Leon says around the risk of being disingenuous with it, I would go and look into whether that organization is true or whether they have just rainbow washed. That would be my take.
Perfect, thank you.
That's one. Totally agree with Dean. Just a comment from my perspective. In the context of LGBT rights, it's used to describe really a variety of marketing and political strategies to promote products, countries, people, entities. And I think it's really important that before you label a company or a coffee or a bank as a company or that does pink washing, I would first ask questions, right? First, I would ask things like, so what are they doing internally? So for example, do they support the employees? Do they have an inclusive leadership? What values does the company, the coffee house have, right? Because every small or big company should have at least values. And I think I would ask myself, well, are these alignable with the LGBTQ community? And if it makes a clear picture for me after I've asked those questions, it's also for me fine if they show it outside and wear a rainbow logo or try to show everyone how inclusive they are. At least they've done it internally first. I think this is key. This is important. Also asking the question, do they have, for example, when I enter a cafe and I just see a white cis man, mid-age, right, who is serving, I would ask myself, well, and then on Pride, I see a rainbow logo. I would ask again the questions, well, does it look for me inclusive? Why are the employees not diverse, right? Why do I see why there are no female employees, etc. So this is a question I would always ask before I would make a conclusion in regards to pink washing, and then really, go from there on.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most important thing really when it comes to, I guess, rainbow washing is actually before you're projecting externally, ensuring that you've got an inclusive and equitable workplace as well. It's like when people tell me that they really want a diverse workforce, I say, well, is your internal company inclusive and equitable? If it's not, then what's the point? Because you're not going to have people want to stay in your business. So
absolutely, yeah.
That's
true. And the good thing about diversity is that it's not working if you're just saying, well, I'm diverse, or if you're just using it as a marketing brand, because the community will realize that this is pinkwashing, and then you will lose more money than you will gain. So this is also what I always give as a recommendation, and that's the good thing about diversity, that no diversity consultant can tell you, well, as a company, well, you should be more diverse. It's usually something which develops by itself because of your values and because of the actions you take. And this is what I really love about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Exactly. All works together. And beautifully. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for your points there. As we have Jana on the panel, something I would absolutely love to speak about is representation within gaming as well. And of course, if anyone else has a point, please say what you'd like to say as well. But obviously, you're working for Wooga, you're a writer. What's your thoughts on the importance of representation within gaming, really?
So in the question's wording, there was an article referenced in the conversation, and it quoted an indie game developer and academic named Anna Anthropy as referencing the gay button, which is the idea that representation can be turned on or off according to the whim of the user. And so this is interesting to me because you can't turn the queer community on or off in real life. So I'm not sure why we're offering this option in these spaces. And the queer community is a part of our world. And I feel that as artists and creators, we have a responsibility to engage with our world and the realities of that world. And the default of our reality is that the queer community exists and queer people exist. So if you are giving the option to turn that off, that's going against the default. And I think you need to have a really, really good reason why you would do that. And if you're doing that, you have to ask yourself why. So is it because you don't want to, you want to give the user a choice about what kind of experience they want to have because like queer people are so offensive to experience in some way? I don't think that's a good reason to do it. And just like any other type of minoritized group, having people who represent that group in creative and leadership roles is going to result in better representation, whether this is, a corporate product or whether, it's someone who has the freedom, the income, the ability to develop a product on their own and as part of the indie community that represents them. And so Anna Anthropy's presence in this article is really interesting because she wrote this book called Rise of the Video Game Zinesters. It was published in 2012, and it predicts with uncanny accuracy a lot of the trends that have happened in the indie video game industry, which at the beginning, at its infancy, was extremely queer because it propagated these game making tools democratically to people who might not have been able to use games to tell their stories before. So I think that it's not just representation, it's a whole ethos, with how we're representing our world and the kind of world that we want to live in.
Amazing, thank you. And yeah, I agree. It's super important that the games that we are playing, that everyone are playing, represent the world that we actually live in. So thank you so much for that. Is there any other points anyone would like to add?
Yeah, I would like to add a question to Jana. And are you working on some specific thing at the moment where you are including the queer community?
Yes, I am. And that's all I can say. And it's interesting because I think I can probably get away with saying that one of my career goals, long-time career goals, has been to write a lesbian romance, and I realized one of my career goals on this project.
Yay! I love that. I'm very excited to see when it's published, I guess. Amazing. Cool.
Cool.
Let's.
Thank you. Can I quickly add something? Like, I'm not like deeply into the gaming scene, but I watched like the film sequence from The Last One of Us. I don't know if you know this game. Like, there's a trans person. Like, this was also like there was a big discussion about this game and about this transgender person in this game, and I thought like it's kind of authentical because this person is suffering somehow, but it's suffering the whole game. And in the end, I started like, if you combine all the scenes where this transgender person is in the game, you have 10 hours of movie to watch. And I started to watch this movie, but after a while I was like, okay, can we go on? Can we go on? Can we go on? It's always the same. Like mimic and gesture and stuff like that. And I thought, yes, it's a hard life being trans and being POC trans, but we also have fun. I mean, okay, it's a sad game, but there's also fun, and we are not only like sad and yeah, small and yeah.
I think that's a really good point. I am familiar with this game. I'm also familiar with the criticisms around how it portrayed this visible trans character. And first of all, everyone suffers constantly in this game. So yeah, that's a different issue, I think. But more importantly, the point that you're trying to make is that representations of joy are just as important as representations of sorrow and suffering. And I think that there's a tendency to show minoritized communities suffering as a means of generating empathy for them. But I think that joy can generate just as much feeling of a connection with the character as suffering can. And I think that just showing suffering to develop empathy with a group that you're not part of is a lazy storytelling shortcut. So I think that we need to represent the full spectrum of every kind of human life that we're showing on screen. And we need to think about these representations very carefully and say, like, what are we showing about the trans experience? What are we showing about the, any kind of experience that hasn't been very visible in media in the past, and make deliberate choices about how we represent that and represent it in a way that makes it look like the fullness of any kind of human experience.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I think as humans, most of us are happy when we experience other people's joy as well. So that definitely needs to be shown more within games and media in general as well. Cool. So I know that we've touched quite a lot on technology and being part of the community and how technology overall has impacted us, but something that I really want to touch on as well is being an impactful ally of the LGBTQIA+ community, and to hear from yourselves what you think are the foundations of being an impactful ally. So I'm happy to open this up to the whole panel.
I'm happy to go. I phoned a friend on this one. In fact, I'll be honest, I phoned a friend on quite a few of these just to sense check that I was thinking in an appropriate fashion. I think the first thing for me is know why you're doing it, and that's true of anything, whether you're being an ally or choosing a career move. You've got to have your why, your purpose. It's really important. It's also very good for your well-being, by the way, to have a sense of purpose about what you're deciding to do and journeys you're pursuing. Then it's about, and probably a very obvious one, about really building your awareness, educating yourself, seeking out, and I would urge anybody to ask questions. Like, I personally would never be offended by a question if your intention was simply to build your understanding and show your interest. And I know that that's quite representative, certainly of those in the community that I know. But I said, oh, would I? I'm not sure my partner and I, he is male, would actually have a great time in that environment for some obvious reasons. And he was quite ashamed and embarrassed by his assumption there. What he was referring to, of course, was, I love food. He loved the food on that particular holiday he'd been on. He'd completely not recognized the fact that as a gay man, that might have been quite a difficult trip for me. So just being aware of the things you don't know and the things that you don't understand or appreciate because you don't experiencing that's another one. Learning some of the terminology. I'm always learning the terminology. I've only just put 2 and 2 together when Leo is referred to POC trans, that's person of color, I believe. Leo, is that right? Yeah, that is something I've learned this evening. And I'm in the community, I'm a part of it. So if I'm still learning, there's a whole load of things that any of us can learn. Really, really important. Checking your privilege, again, knowing what you don't know, understanding the things that you don't have to think about, that's definitely on the list. Try not to make assumptions about people's sexuality or their gender identity. Again, tread carefully, but not gingerly. I mean, that would be silly. Just asking questions, understanding, and appreciating how people want to be referred to, what they value in life, normal relationship building things, but done well. And that's probably it for me. Oh no, calling stuff out. One of our amazing people at Avado, I'm very conscious of time, one of our amazing people at Avado shared on LinkedIn last week the horrible, despicable news of a young man being attacked and killed in her city in Spain. And she's a heterosexual female, I believe, based on what I know of her. And she was horrified that had happened in her hometown. And she, with pride, shared that story and said how horrified she was. That to me is real character building allyship, and I shared publicly my gratitude to her for that. So not being afraid to do that. Now do that if you feel safe. I would never ask anybody to put themselves in harm's way by doing that sort of stuff, but it's certainly a start if you feel able to do that.
So I actually would ask people to put themselves in harm's way, because people from marginalized communities are constantly in harm's way. And if there's privilege that you can, and that you enjoy, and you see that someone is being discriminated against, I would ask people to step up, even if it has negative consequences for them. Because I know in environments where I've been a minority, I feel like I'm the only person speaking up against this kind of discrimination and these kinds of comments when I see them, and it gets tiring, man. Like, you want someone to share the load. And so I think that just being able to be there and say, hey, that's not okay, like, we don't say these things here, that this is hate speech, in a corporate environment, that's really helpful, and in other environments that's also really helpful. And I would say, just in terms of learning, approaching communities outside your own with a spirit of respectful curiosity rather than a spirit of guilt, and taking the initiative to educate yourself as well as talking to the people around you, because I think that a good education comes from a combination of both of those experiences.
Just a comment also for me. So from my perspective, if you do not proactively, deliberately include, you will definitely unintentionally exclude. So this is fact. No one will join a company and say, well, hi, I'm Emre, I'm 30 years old, I'm gay. Please consider this in your communication. The weird question I'm facing with day by day. So this is why we need allyship, because we need those individuals who proactively and deliberately support us and show that they care by wearing a rainbow badge, by wearing rainbow pins, or by learning and also supporting the community. This is why I think of allyship, I think of a person that really proactively supports, listen and learn in regards to LGBTQIA topics. So this is one thing. And the second thing is that I really believe that this year, more than ever, it's about togetherness. It's really standing beyond those who have been marginalized, discriminated for so many years. And I think we are really the generation that can make the difference, that can put the needle into the right direction. Which is why we need now all the allies also marching with us during prides, going out with us to the streets and supporting us in our goal that every human is equal, and that we can that we are not getting marginalized anymore. And that's why, just to summary that it's, for me, someone that proactively supports and shows action behind his support. And it's also someone that is aware about the privileges, because I think usually we see as human beings a lot of things forgiven, and sometimes we do not realize that even our sexual orientation, being straight is a privilege, being white is a privilege and a way of power, being a cis man is a privilege, and we have to have that in mind. And that's why an ally is also someone who is aware of that as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that as well. Santiago or Leon, did you want to add anything for you folks?
One thing that I mean, with everything that was said so far, there's a lot there. The one thing that I try to do as much as possible is the connection between communities, right? We are in this community. I am a Latino as well, so I belong to other Latino communities, specific communities. So try to always bridge those, act as a bridge between the communities we see. I always say we're like a miners with a miner's hat, and where we shine the light is where we see, right? So that is the areas that I have influence on. So making sure that I connect them, that I bridge them, is one way that I find that I'm helping the community, both the Latino on one side and the LGBTQIA plus on the other side, and any other community I belong. We don't have to be, in this community, my friends, adding friends I know that need to connect to somebody. That simple connection goes a long way into facilitating this impact in these communities.
Yeah, thank you. Just let me add some small things. Like, I would say, like, knowing your privileges is one of the most important things, because we are all, or can all, be allies for somebody else. And for me in my life, the most hurtful thing was when people didn't step up, didn't say something. And at the same time, the most powerful situations were when people saved me, when people stood up. So let's do that for all other people who can't. Stand up, say something, or get in the way of people who are aggressive or whatnot. It's hard, of course. We also have to learn that it's not that easy to step up for others, but it's so fucking important.
Thank you all so much for your points, and I totally agree with all of them. It's knowing your privilege, checking your privilege, using your privilege to your advantage to protect the community and your friends and people who are your equals as well, and recognizing that and just using your platform, I think, to educate. That's what I personally as well think that I can do as an ally, and having that understanding, even though I don't walk in your shoes, having that empathy as well, which is why I'm so honored to be here today. So thank you so much for letting me chair this. So I'm conscious of time. We've got one more question that I would love to touch upon as well, and I'll let everyone go and enjoy their evening. If anyone that's watching does have any questions, please pop it in to the chat box now, but just to everyone on the panel, I'd love to know if you believe that overall technology has helped you to be your authentic self, if it's given you more of a platform to speak about any issues or problems faced in the community. I don't mind who starts.
So I can start if you want. So yes, definitely it helped me to become more my authentic self, because I mean, even through the basic things like search, right? You just open your search bar and then you start searching like I did. So am I gay? What is being gay? How is it? What do I need? What do I need to consider? All this weird, I had all these weird questions in my mind and couldn't find an answer when I was like 17, 18. And really, the first thing I did is I was searching for answers. I asked all the questions and got most of the time the things that helped me actually out. It also helped me the search helped me to find also dating platform, for example. It helped me to find other gay people. It helped me to find other Turkish gay people, because it's also still a special group. It helped me to find other Muslim LGBTQ people, right? Because we are facing some different things in our environments. And this is why I would definitely say yes, because through search, through technology, I became my authentic self, because I found answers, I find friends, and I found also people who support me. And that's why definitely I would say yes.
Love that. Thank you.
From my perspective, it's the same, very similar experience. I think technology is so ingrained today in our lives, and everything we do is touched with by that. But to me, originally, just like Emre said, is the ability to see like people, the ability to identify yourself with others, and knowing that you're not wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. You are who you are, and it's okay to be who you are and to show yourself the way you are. And then all the other things, like you said, you're searching. Recently, we're looking for. My husband and I are going to travel, so we were looking for the visa process. And there's a group in Facebook about visa process, and we found two other couples that are traveling from Seattle and are going through the same visa program. We started talking about it, right? And that would have never been possible without technology that facilitates that type of relationships. So it's in every aspect, in every facet of our lives, we have technology that helps us. Of course, there's negatives to that, but I think it's mostly positive, at least in my experience.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the second, I agree with all of that. I think, and thank you both for sharing those stories. The second part of the question was around, has it given us more of a platform to speak about the issues? On the authentic point, I actually see that as a matter for life's work. Like, authenticity is something we will always be trying to build and being in pursuit of, and something that we should consciously do. But using technology as a platform absolutely has helped me. And if I think about how my utilization and voice on LinkedIn has amplified over the last few years, not just because of the technology, you know, my job role, the people I surround myself with, the communities through the technology I've met that I also surround myself with, that they all contribute to the voice that I feel like I can now confidently have. And it's that, I know it's a bit Gen Y, and I don't even like the generational terms, but there's very quickly thinking, I can't think of a better way of putting it, but that kind of notion of we like being liked, we like our things being commented on. It is actually quite true. I find that quite confidence boosting when people are showing support and sharing their own views, even challenging as well, which then enables the learning and reflection process. So yes, to facilitated building the authentic self in some ways for all the reasons that Santiago and Emre have pointed out, but also in being able to amplify ourselves and take part in this sort of conversation which I would have completely run away from, by the way, if this was in person. So I'm really grateful for Zoom, because I can't see my audience, and that means I can pretty much say what I feel like saying, because I'm only looking at very beautiful, like-minded people. And I would also believe that the audience are probably like-minded as well. I just can't see them, which makes it feel better.
Thanks for the end. I feel the same, but it's not about me. Jana or Leon.
Okay, then I go first. So, thank you for your answers, because I agree with them as well. Like, technology is beautiful. It's giving you possibility to reach out to others, to see others, and to feel like in some sense normal. And there's also like it's my perspective as a trans person, there's also like technology who is, let's say, hindering me in being me. For example, I don't know if you remember the invention of this naked scanner at airports. Like, for trans people, it's really a problem, like having surgery, having not surgery, wearing binders, having prosthetics, having not prosthetics, having surgery, and you can't go through it. And that's really a problem. And there are other stuff like who are really like in everyday life, for example, the software, which is like combining all the stuff for the paycheck. Here in Germany, it is like you can't change the name if you hire at the company. Like, it was my experience. I don't know if it's changed already, but you can change your name. Okay, if you're marrying, then you can change your last name, but it wasn't allowed. The software did not allow to change your first name or the pronoun. So there are also tiny things in technology where you can see that it is invented for cis people or cis hetero people, and is still not like able to represent like trans folks. Or another thing which is was invented recently is this EU vaccination pass for showing that you have like your vaccination for COVID. And this digital pass, you can't change your name. You're just going to the pharmacy, they check your identity card, and then you get a second identity card, which is referring to your name assigned at birth. So it's also not, let's say, thought through out of my perspective. So, and there are a lot of tiny things which need to be changed step by step to include, like, we want to be visible and we want to have a nice life for everybody, but it's still not the case. I mean, it's we come a long way to now, but there's still a long way to go.
Thank you for your perspective, Leon. It's super important. And then finally, Jana, and I'm aware that some of the panelists may need to jump off. So if you need to jump off, that's absolutely fine. But Jana, please go ahead.
Well, I think that, as has already been mentioned, technology has such an enormous impact on our lives that I think it's hard to separate the authentic self from technology's influence on the authentic self. And when I thought about my answer to this question, I think I primarily considered the impact of communication technology on what I would consider the expression of my authentic self, and also of social media. And I think in a lot of ways, technology has democratized what kinds of voices are heard. And I think in other ways, it still continues to repress voices that are not traditionally heard. And it also has a tendency to polemicize communication because that's what generates activity for those platforms. So there's not a lot of room for subtlety. There's not a lot of room for learning in some cases. Like, I think there's an expectation that you already know what you need to know. And so I think in some ways it helps. I think overall it's probably been a good thing. And there's some ways that it's still holding us back. And no matter what, technology will never be a substitute for in-person communication and connection.
That is so true. So thank you so much. Perfect. So that is all from us, folks. We do have a final poll to pop up on the screen now. Really keen to hear your thoughts on that. But this is the end. We're going to jump on to a quick 10-minute networking session in case any attendees have any questions for the panel as well. If there's any questions that you have for anyone on the panel or for us after, please come to us and let us know. We'll be more than happy to answer, and there will be a white paper written afterwards on today's webinar. But overall, thank you everyone so much for being on the panel, for attending. I know that our panelists have been absolutely fantastic, and we'll hopefully see you in the networking, which is linked in the chat. I never know how to end these. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Everyone,
Bye-bye.
it was a pleasure.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thanks.